Pisces, sometimes what reaches you the deepest does not come from anything you can clearly see. It arrives as a feeling, familiar, gentle, almost like someone quietly placing a hand on your shoulder in the middle of a noisy, restless world. You can't quite name it. You can't fully explain it. You only know that somehow your heart softens. In recent days, you may have noticed yourself pausing longer than usual over a single thought, an old memory, or a decision that suddenly made sense in a very personal way. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, yet enough to make you wonder why you feel guided instead of lost. This video isn't here to pull you back into the past or ask you to hold on to what's already gone. It speaks about a presence that continues to walk beside you quietly in a very human, very ordinary way. And if you're willing to slow down for just a moment to truly listen, you may begin to realize that this voice has never really left you. Lately, Pisces, you may sense something familiar, quietly walking beside you, not clearly defined, without a shape, not something that needs a name. It shows up when you're not searching, when your mind is just calm enough to stop trying to figure everything out. Only a gentle feeling, very gentle, as if someone were softly reminding you to slow down, to breathe a little deeper, and to remember that you are not moving through life alone. This feeling doesn't behave like memory because it doesn't pull you backward. It doesn't feel like a dream either because you are fully awake when you notice it. It appears in ordinary moments. When you sit quietly in a familiar room, when an afternoon seems to move more slowly than usual, when your chest suddenly feels lighter, even though there's no clear reason why. Pisces has always been sensitive to emotional layers that others tend to miss. You hear what isn't spoken. You sense the space between breaths, the pauses within life itself. And because of that, this presence doesn't arrive to draw attention. It comes quietly, like a natural part of the rhythm you already live in, close enough to feel, distant enough not to frighten you. Some days, you may notice yourself returning to an old question, not because it lacks an answer, but because you're seeing it through a different lens now. There are moments when you choose a path, not based on familiar logic, but on an inner knowing, not rushed, not impulsive, just a quiet certainty that this choice brings more peace. This presence doesn't come to give directions. It doesn't tell you what to do, and it doesn't demand immediate change. It's more like a small light in the dark, not bright enough to reveal the entire road, but steady enough to keep you from losing your way. And sometimes, that is more than enough. For Pisces, safety doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from trusting your own rhythm. When this presence appears, you may realize that strength doesn't have to be loud. There's no need to prove anything. No need to perform resilience. Just permission to be yourself in your natural softness and quiet honesty. You may never speak about this with anyone, not because it's too big, but because it's deeply personal, like a small secret, shared only between you and your own heart. A gentle reminder that even as life continues to change, some things remain. Connections that don't require promises, companionship that doesn't need to be visible. And if you're listening right now, you've likely felt something like this before. There's no need to name it yet. No need to fully understand it. Just allow yourself to stay with the feeling a little longer. Because sometimes, in this very stillness, you begin to notice that certain things are closer than you realized, always present, waiting quietly for you to listen in your own way. And as you begin to notice that some things are very close, always present, waiting for you to listen in your own way, you may also start to realize that this presence is no longer just a vague feeling. It begins to touch everyday life, very lightly, very real, in ways that are easy to miss if you don't slow down enough to notice. Pisces may encounter these signs at the most unexpected moments. A passing sentence from a stranger, ordinary on the surface, yet it causes you to pause, just a little longer than usual. A song that plays by chance, at the exact moment your thoughts feel tangled. A line of text that appears without being searched for, yet somehow speaks directly to something you've never put into words. Nothing unusual, nothing mysterious, just perfect timing. These signs don't arrive all at once. They don't interrupt your life. They don't demand belief or ask you to follow them blindly. They show up naturally, the same way life often sends quiet reminders when you're ready to see them. And what's striking is this: they're always accompanied by a familiar feeling. No confusion, no fear, just a gentle clarity, enough to let you know you're moving at the right pace. Sometimes, it's a decision you once struggled with for a long time that suddenly feels simple, not because the risks are gone, but because you now understand what truly matters to you. Other times, it's the moment you choose to stop. Instead of pushing yourself further, and for the first time, you don't feel guilty for it. These choices don't make noise. They don't announce themselves, but they carry a sense of calm you've been searching for longer than you realized. Pisces often experiences the world through intuition rather than logic. And when these signs appear, they don't speak in rational language. They speak through subtle emotion, through a quiet agreement deep inside, through a soft feeling in your chest, as if everything has gently fallen into place. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You only need to know that in that moment, you're no longer resisting yourself. These signs don't push you to change overnight. They don't pressure you to become someone else. Instead, they softly invite you back to who you've always been, to the values you once held close, to the kindness you may have forgotten to offer yourself. And when you listen in this way, you begin to see that true guidance always respects your own rhythm. In a world that constantly rewards speed and outcomes, these quiet signs offer a different lesson: that not everything meaningful needs to be proven, that not every direction requires approval from the outside. Sometimes, feeling just a little more at peace is already a complete answer. And if you're experiencing moments like these, allow yourself to trust that feeling, even if only for now. There's no need to name it, no need to fully understand it. Simply keep moving forward with a gentleness toward yourself, because these subtle signs aren't here to control you. They're here to remind you that when you truly slow down, life always finds a way to speak to you in a language only you can understand. And as those very small moments begin to connect, Pisces may start to sense that a deeper layer of meaning is quietly opening. Not something dramatic, not a clear set of instructions, more like a silent understanding spreading slowly, just enough for you to pause and look at yourself through a different lens. What's being shared here doesn't arrive as advice or command. It doesn't tell you what to do next, and it doesn't set a standard you're expected to reach. Instead, it feels like a gentle nod, a quiet acknowledgement of everything you've already lived through, that the moments you once believed were weakness were actually moments when you were learning how to stand in your own way, that the pauses, the slower pace, were never failures, but necessary parts of growing from the inside out. Pisces is often harder on themselves than they realize. You tend to focus on what still feels unfinished and forget how far you've already come. This understanding doesn't deny difficulty. It simply places it where it belongs. It reminds you that every step you've chosen, whether winding or still, came from an honest attempt to live in alignment with your emotions and your values. And that, in itself, is a quiet kind of strength. There's a very distinct feeling when you touch this level of awareness. Not excitement, not emotional intensity, but a deep calm, as if you no longer need to prove anything. You begin to understand that acceptance doesn't require becoming someone else. It only asks that you continue moving at a pace your heart can recognize. This message isn't here to change who you are. It doesn't try to fix what feels incomplete. Instead, it meets you with genuine respect, as if to say, you've done better than you ever gave yourself credit for. That the choices you've made, even the ones that cause doubt, reflect a form of growth that's been unfolding quietly, but steadily. Within this realization, Pisces may notice that the journey no longer feels so lonely. Not because someone is walking it for you, but because you understand that support doesn't always need to be visible. Sometimes it exists as a simple trust that you're allowed to move slowly, that you're allowed to stumble, and that you are still worthy of care and love. This may be the first time you've looked back on your path without judgment. You start to see that every turn carried a lesson, that every pause helped you understand yourself a little more deeply. And instead of asking whether you did everything right, a gentler question begins to form. Did I live honestly with my own heart? When that question appears, you feel lighter, not because everything makes sense, but because you're no longer pushing against yourself. You accept that growth doesn't need to resemble anyone else's. It only needs to be true to you right now with what you have. And within that very quiet recognition, Pisces can feel a deep source of encouragement, not loud, not urgent, just enough to keep moving forward with the trust that you are not lost, that even with uncertainty ahead, you are still being supported in your own way, learning, living more fully, and never truly walking this path alone. When that quiet understanding has finally settled in, a subtle transformation begins to spread from the deepest place within. There's no clear milestone to name, no moment dramatic enough for others to notice. Just something inside you loosening. Tensions that have been stored for a long time slowly begin to dissolve, like thin morning mist retreating. When the first light of day touches it, this state is often recognized through very delicate changes. Memories that once made your chest feel heavy no longer take over your inner space. They still exist, but they no longer control you. Instead of pulling you back into difficult moments, they remain still, like chapters that have found their proper place within the flow of your life, no longer needing avoidance or confrontation. Questions that once followed you for a long time begin to change their shape. They no longer demand immediate answers. Some things grow lighter, simply by being allowed to exist in an unfinished form. That soft release isn't giving up. It's an understanding that not every layer of meaning needs to be uncovered at the same time. This process unfolds naturally. It doesn't require sudden changes in how you live or how you think. There's no pressure to become more positive, no template to compare yourself against. Only a sense of safety quietly appears, a space where you're allowed to remain with your true feelings, even the fragile parts that are still unclear. As that space opens, trust in your inner voice slowly returns, not as absolute certainty, but as a gentle agreement between reason and emotion. You begin to notice the smallest signals within yourself, knowing when to move forward and when to pause. From there, choices feel softer, less resistant, less forced. This renewed trust doesn't push you toward grand actions. It's just enough to help you treat yourself with more kindness. In each small decision, you learn to place peace above urgency. Gradually, your relationship with yourself is rebuilt on respect rather than judgment. Your understanding of connection also deepens. It's no longer about holding tightly or fearing loss. It becomes a steady presence, free from control, untied to distance or time, a form of bonding that doesn't need proof, yet remains strong enough to support you when needed. Healing from within doesn't make everything perfect. It doesn't erase fragile days or moments of uncertainty, but it does offer a stronger foundation, a place you can lean on whenever rest is needed. You come to realize that you don't need to become a different version of yourself to deserve peace. From that deep place, a new sense of safety forms, not created by external conditions, not dependent on anyone's approval. It exists quietly, like an unseen anchor, allowing you to continue forward at a pace that feels right, carrying softness, clarity, and the trust that this unfolding is happening exactly in the way meant for you. The message you're sensing is not asking you to turn back to what is already past. It doesn't ask you to relive old memories, and it doesn't invite regret for what no longer exists. Instead, it feels like a very gentle, very unhurried reminder guiding you back to the moment you're in right now, to the breath you're taking in, to the rhythm of your heartbeat, to the life opening in front of you, even if it isn't perfect, in the way you once imagined. Pisces often lives deeply, inside emotion, inside memory, inside layers of quiet thought. That depth gives you compassion, but it can also make you forget that the present moment is where you're actually standing. This reminder doesn't arrive to blame you for dreaming or for holding on to the past. It simply invites you to place your feet on the ground just a little more firmly, long enough to feel that the life you're living still holds many things worth tending to. Living more fully doesn't mean doing more or becoming better in someone else's eyes. Sometimes it's as simple as allowing yourself to fully experience an ordinary day, a morning without rushing, a meal eaten in quiet, a moment where you're honest with how you feel instead of pretending you're fine. Those small moments, for Pisces, carry real weight. This message also draws attention to caring for your inner world, not by avoiding sadness, but by listening to it, not by forcing strength, but by offering yourself enough gentleness that you don't abandon your own heart. Your feelings don't need to be logical, to be valid. They only need to be seen and treated with kindness. Your dreams are no different. They may have changed over time. Some dreams you once held tightly may no longer fit who you are now. That doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you lost your way. It simply means you're growing and understanding yourself more clearly. This reminder doesn't tell you which path to choose. It asks something much simpler. What makes you feel truly alive? Pisces also tends to struggle with setting boundaries. You give easily. You listen deeply. You stay in situations that drain you because you don't want to hurt anyone else. But this return to the present suggests something important. protecting your inner space, is not selfish. It's a form of self-respect. And when you respect yourself, you learn how to care for others in a healthier way too. Living in alignment with your values isn't a grand statement. It shows up in everyday choices. How you say no when you need to. How you rest when you're tired. How you choose peace over holding on to what weighs you down. Those choices may go unnoticed, but they preserve something essential inside you. And maybe this is how the love once given to you continues to live on, not by living for someone else, but by living your own life with honesty. When you're fully present in each moment, when you treat yourself with care, you carry those values forward, quietly, steadily, and with strength. This message doesn't demand immediate change. It simply stands here as a soft reminder that the present moment is always a place you can begin again. No rush, no certainty required, only enough honesty to live each day in a way that makes your heart feel a little lighter. And sometimes that alone is already a step worth honoring. At some point, hard to clearly define, you may notice that the need to keep searching begins to fade. Not because every answer has appeared, but because you're no longer rushing toward them. Something unusual settles in. You begin to trust what you feel without needing proof. Your pace slows, yet your steps feel more certain. And within that rhythm, understanding starts to take shape in the most natural way. For Pisces, realization rarely arrives through pure logic. It comes through very small choices, ones that leave a lasting sense of rightness. When you respond with more softness towards someone, when you pause instead of reacting immediately, when you release something that no longer fits, even if you once held on to it for a very long time. These moments don't feel symbolic or grand, yet they leave behind a deep sense of calm. You may notice that fear and lack no longer pull you forward. Instead, your decisions begin to rise from self-respect. No long explanations. No need to justify. Just the feeling that this choice allows you to breathe more easily. And sometimes, that lightness is the clearest signal of all. What matters here is this. You don't need to work to maintain a connection with anything unseen. When you live honestly with what's happening inside you, connection exists on its own. No rituals required. No labels necessary. It lives in how you meet life, in how you move through an ordinary day with awareness, in how you stay loyal to the values you've learned through experience. Pisces carries a deep capacity to feel, and just as easily, to doubt it. This closing reflection doesn't ask you to believe absolutely in anything. It simply suggests that inner stillness is a trustworthy guide. When you allow yourself to remain there long enough, you'll know what to keep, what to let go of, and what isn't meant to be understood yet. You may never tell this story to anyone. It may exist only as a quiet foundation beneath the way you live from here on. And that's what gives it strength. You no longer need external confirmation to know you're moving in the right direction. Stability no longer comes from circumstances, but from how fully you show up. In each moment, looking back on the journey, you may realize that nothing was unnecessary. Every feeling, every pause, every slowed step helped you understand yourself more clearly. Not to become someone else, but to return to who you were before you forgot. How to listen inwardly. ending here doesn't mean closure. It feels more like a door opening, guiding you back into everyday life, but in a different state, calmer, more honest, more free in how you choose. You don't need to hold anything tightly, only to continue living with kindness toward yourself and the world around you. When you move forward with that awareness, you begin to understand that some bonds don't need names to exist. They accompany you quietly, without leaving, without pressure, and within that private stillness. You're walking your own path in the way that fits you best right now.